Oh my gosh, I am so excited, Allison. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, my head. I'm so excited. My brain just exploded a little bit and I popped my headphone out. Okay. So people listen up. What happens when life throws you one of those hard, messy curveballs, like the kind we call stingers? Allison Al-Khemia.
Yeah.
Yes, did I get that? Alchemia doesn't just navigate them, she alchemizes them into gold. Through her work in quantum manifestation, she combines mindset, breathwork, visualization, embodiment, sometimes howling at the moon on a full moon night. We don't know. And human design to guide people in turning life's toughest challenges into meaningful growth. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, and here is something that I was like, I cannot wait to talk to you because Allison has been receiving psychic premonitions since she was 3 years old, including a vision of the pandemic way before it ever happened. Allison,
Thank
welcome
you
to
so
Curveball.
much. I'm so excited and honored to be interviewed by such a brilliant person. Like, just the pre-conversation
nice.
was like, okay, yeah, I'm in the right spot. This is awesome.
I know. I was like, I got to hit record because we are just absolutely true to her alchemy into gold. Like, I was like, this is so interesting. So I want to start off just because having a premonition of a pandemic, I can't even wrap my head around that. Like, what does it feel like when you receive a premonition like that? And then do you forget it? And then what happens when the premonition starts happening and that premonition is not just like winning lottery ticket? It's like a global pandemic. And how old were you? Tell me tell me everything.
So growing up and kind of being the way that I am was it felt very unusual, but I didn't tell a soul I didn't really start talking about some of these things until my mid to late 20s. The answer to one of your questions was no, it never went away. I always remembered. So like, I've heard people say, we come here, we're born, we forget who we are, and this journey is about remembering. I do resonate with that on some level, but on another level, I really did not forget much. So from childhood, I had these visions of, they were always in a little bit more of an angelic realm and a demonic realm. And I saw things that I wasn't sure that other people saw. And I just knew stuff. I just knew shit. Like I would just know that such and such was going through this, or this was happening to that person, or this was about to happen. And I thought that everybody operated that way because I was a kid.
Sure.
But I also didn't grow up kind of in this environment where it was safe to really talk about. So I didn't. But like, I remember one of my favorite childhood games was getting like my closest friends. I had to really be able to trust them. So it was just like 2 or 3 friends, but we would get out these, fake swords and all these weapons, and we would fight the darkness. And yeah, like for hours, we would fill up entire days, weekends, like fighting these battles. And so I had a very rich inner life. And then there's a large.
Is that like a lot? I'm sorry for interrupting, but is that like a lot? How old are you? Like when this is happening and you're starting? Cause I'm sure and is it someone like like you see one of your teachers and you're just like, I don't know, like 8 years old and you're like, oh, like her husband is like abusive. So that must be a lot to carry. I know it's hard to go back to well, maybe it's not like how you felt when you're 8 years old and you're getting these like big adult
It's
things.
really interesting that you say 8 years old because that's around the time that there's a large chunk of my childhood that I don't remember. And that's when a lot of this like big, heavy capital T, like heavy trauma, which I do have memories of that, but things around that I don't remember. But I do remember my earliest memory was around the age of 3. I was really young because I remember which stuffed animals I was still sleeping with. I remember my sister, who's a year and a half younger, she was just a toddler, a baby. I remember my earliest memory is being born. I remember being born.
Oh,
It would come as a recurring dream, and it didn't make.
What was it? Yeah, like what does remembering what it was like to be born? What's that memory like?
It felt like a nightmare. It woke me up over and over because my mom, I was in this conflict with my mom. She wasn't listening to me, and she was going way too fast. And it's like we had this agreement, and she wasn't listening to me. And it went from super dark to super bright and super warm to super cold. And it was pretty traumatic, honestly. It wasn't the greatest.
Right. Yeah. Well, I always think about like just how amazing it is that you're in fluid and then you're just out and you're just breathing air all of a sudden. And I know what it feels like when you get out of the shower in the winter, and it is, I'm like, whoa, and it just must be absolutely such a huge shock. Oh, that is so.
It was so weird because that's actually a memory that when I became a teenager and in my early 20s, I did kind of forget. And then I became a childbirth doula for 13 years and a childbirth educator. And so I started asking my mom.
Did you feel called to do that because you wanted to help the babies at the moment when they're in that state of just, what the fuck? I mean, they're just like,
That's
I can't even imagine.
That's a profound question that I never even connected the dots on. But the short answer is yes. And I actually had a water birth for that reason. I had all my sons at home and delivered them myself into my hands and just went for the most gentle process possible. But at one point, I was in.
Well, them. Yes. Yeah.
At one point, I was inspired to ask my mom about her birth story with me. And when she started retelling that, it triggered those memories, those early memories. And I was like, holy shit, that lines up exactly with what I experienced and what I remember. So I won't get into the details of her story because that's her story, but it lined up 100%. Right.
Amazing. So, because I know I do. So when you get this vision of the pandemic, what is that vision like? I mean, do you get how does that even show up? That you're just like, there might be a global pandemic.
I didn't foresee it coming as a pandemic. I didn't foresee it.
Okay.
I read energy and I know how the collective, I know the plan. And at the risk of sounding like a conspiracy theorist, and I don't have attachments to opinions or political anything. I really don't, because I read the energy and I know the energy. And so when it happened, I remember watching the news one night with my then husband. It was happening. And I paused it and I was like, holy shit. And he's like, what? I'm like, this is it. And he's, what is it?
You're like, it. This is it.
I'm like, this is the thing that I have known for, at that point, 36 years. Like my whole life, it was like this hum and this undertone, this undercurrent of knowing. I knew that cell phones came out when I was 20, maybe 16. I'm showing my age here. Like the earliest flip phones.
Oh, don't worry. My kids got their first cell phone when they were 10 and I got mine when I was 35. Perfect.
So these things that have kind of come in, like just the evolution of our relationship with technology, that's something that I foresaw the AI thing like way years before the public knew about it. Like it came on the scene, everyone's like, oh my God. And I'm like, you guys didn't know? But Yeah, so it's really interesting how the visions come. Sometimes they don't make sense to the logical brain. That's the thing is, and this is where the trauma and the
Right.
alchemy comes in, because it can take the logic out of it and off the table, and the intuition and the knowing is much more secure, and it's not doubted as much.
So like your vision was like, oh, there's something that's going to happen that's going to impact the entire world at the same time. And it could be a world war, it could be, I don't know, like a spiritual pit, or it could be like something like, is that sort of what it felt like? And then it just happened to be the pandemic?
Well, here's where it could get really controversial, and that's not my intention, but the flavor with the visions and the knowings has been that there's this huge element of manipulation and control. So, like, seeing people being forced to not even go outside of their homes, and seeing it was just like, of course, like, this is what I saw. And there's more. There's more that I do know that I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about, but there's more.
I trust you to decide what that, well, I trust you completely to decide where that line is too, just because I can appreciate you're carrying something very big too, and you don't want to like freak people out either. But I just feel like, I don't know, like I've heard these things like we run in like these 80-year bands, and so we're nearing the end of one now, and then we're into like the next one is restarting this age of enlightenment, and I'm just like, okay, I'm here for that completely. But I just know, I think we're in the midst of such enormous change. I think there's so much change in and usually there's like a safe harbor, but it doesn't feel like there's everywhere you look there's change. And I don't know, change is uncomfortable, and it might get worse before it gets better.
I'm glad you brought up the 80-year thing. There's two things that I see happening. There is the 80-year cycle that we are on the precipice of beginning again. And there's also, it's like this lifetime and perhaps the next, or this generation. I also remember 7 lifetimes. So sometimes,
oh my gosh,
this generation, and in the next 2 to 3, it's like we are laying the foundation of literally the next couple millennia. So it's big. And that's what.
Well, I just know that foundation is made out of plastic. Like it is. I read this book called by Chuck. I can never pronounce his last name. Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote the book Fight Club. I mean, I just love his books because they're also completely irreverent. But one is called Hell, and then he wrote a sequel to it. And in Hell, I mean, his description of hell, I'm like, this seems pretty appropriate. Like you think you're on a beach with sand, but it's really all fingernail clippings.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
wait. What do you and Chuck Palahniuk, do you guys know something that we do not know about hell?
Well, here's my take. Here's my honest take. And this kind of comes back down to, and you saw me on camera, like sometimes I'll get emotional. You'll see tears come to my eyes. That's just a physiological response. It's like a confirmation to the bigger collective energy that we're tapping into. So when I tap into, okay, when I say, more is coming, like this is not even, we haven't even scratched the surface. The point here is that we live, and this ties into the fingernail clippings on the beach. I really do believe and perceive that we live in like a holographic matrix existence. And so where we place our thoughts and our frequency is what creates our reality. And I'm sure you have been through this journey on your own when you were sharing with me a little bit about your own journey. So when we can look at a situation and say, oh my God, like more's coming. Like maybe it's not going to be another global pandemic. Maybe it's going to be something different, but just as shocking and fear-based and fear-inducing. It's like fear is a really significant frequency. I've worked a lot with that frequency in my life from a conscious perspective. And what I've seen is when you are empowered and able to stand in your own groundedness of your own energy, and you decide how you interpret the information coming to you and how you interface with it energetically, emotionally, all of those things, then you can actually create heaven when other people are experiencing hell with the same circumstances. Right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I love that. I've been reading a lot. My daughter's boyfriend studied ancient history, and we had the most interesting conversation about Stoics. And I'm like, oh, I'll get a book by Marcus Aurelius, which I did. And what's so interesting is I love it because they're like, we have freedom of perspective, essentially. And it's don't like really focus on the things. It's like everyone says, right? I'm sure Jesus, Buddha, the Tao, Marcus Aurelius, like all those guys, right? It's focus what's in your control. But sometimes that's easier said than done, right? So when there's something big, like one of the things that gets me nervous is I think about war, and I think about, I was born in the mid 60s, and just my parents were big anti-Vietnam War people. So we would go to this like progressive Catholic church. And I remember like marching in anti-war protests, like when I was really little, like five years old, and not really knowing like what was going on, but because my parents probably couldn't get a babysitter. And so but I just think about even in my whole lifetime, like I think about that song, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. But that's like one of my biggest fears is like something happening to me or something like, not to me, to my children. Oh my God, was that like a Freudian slip? But something happening to my kids, and we're separated. My daughter lives in New York City, and sometimes I get nervous about stuff like that. So so I just think there's enough like global sort of instability right now. So like, how does somebody do that? Asking for a friend, of course. Totally. I'm the friend. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So number one, and I actually developed a method called Alchemize, and each letter stands for a process in the step.
Oh, of course, my marketing heart is. I love stuff like that.
Right. Like, yes. So one of the very, very first steps, like the A, right, is acknowledge, which you just did, right? You just acknowledged your deepest, darkest fear. That is scary, that is big, and that is very present for you. And so the next letter, L, is love. Love yourself right there in that moment. That big mama heart of yours loves your kids that much. And so we can, and I was guilty of this in my past. I used to really demonize the frequency of fear, but honestly, every frequency serves a purpose, even fear. Fear keeps us alive, right?
Right. Yes. Like, I love when I journal and I start to have a conversation. I don't know who I'm having a conversation with, but I know when I'm getting ready, because I'm having a conversation with myself, but also it's a me and you, like the voice in my head isn't like, oh, I got to remember to get toothpaste at the grocery store. It's like, hey, remember when you did this or when this happened to you, or, so it's definitely like a third party conversation, but I know what it feels like when like I'm on the precipice of something because a big limiting belief will like show up all of a sudden. And one of the things I started doing, because you want to kick it in, I don't know, there's like a lot of aggressive terminology around like battling fear, like crushing fear. And so you want to come at it like in this aggressive way, or at least I did. And then I just remember like thinking, no, I created this. Like this was a protector that I somehow created that helped me. And so I just remember like having a conversation with one of my limiting beliefs when I was journaling. And I'm like, I just want to thank you. Like, I know you're here because you're getting ready to go. Like, like our time together is sort of nearing the end. And I just want to thank you so much for your service because I created you and you showed up like in such a significant way. But I'm not going to kick you out, but I know you're leaving. And I just want you to know, like, it's sort of sad. And the reason I'm crying when I'm journaling, because we've had a long relationship together, like, I think even that kind of change when you're releasing like a limiting belief like that, or it shows up like that. And so it was so interesting, like when I made friends with my fear, because I do feel like it's like information, like it's so, and it will tell you, oh, I don't know. And then when I know, like sometimes it's like a couple days later, or sometimes it can be like a few months later, like there's no set time frame, but I'll all of a sudden have this like very clear epiphany of that limiting belief. This is the first time it happened. It'll be all like 10 or 20 memories and I'm just like, and then it's gone. And I'm just like a vapor, like I can't go back to it anymore too. So what's happened? I want to say you have quantum manifestation, and I want to say like I know exactly what that means, but I don't know exactly what quantum, like I always think of quantum physics, but what does quantum mean in terms of alchemy?
What a question. And I just want to say, welcome to the club. I mean, I teach quantum manifestation and I wake up pretty much every day asking myself, what is quantum? And the funny part and the cool part too, because when you look at science, it's like science is ask questions, experiment, ask more questions, experiment. So some of the questions being asked by some of the most brilliant minds out there who develop, what quantum physics even means to us, are asking questions like, like when Einstein was talking to us about E equals MC square, like what is gravity? What is time? Like what? So when you say, I don't really know.
What is reality?
These are the questions. And we could go so deep. And I've gone down all these rabbit holes externally when I read other people's stuff and internally when I feel into my own stuff. And when I get to the bottom of any of these rabbit holes, the conclusions I come to are, we don't know. We don't know. And that's where we get to choose. We get to put a stake in the ground somewhere and say, okay, this is the language I'm using. So I chose quantum because to me, what that means is that there is an element of creation because we have the observer effect. There is an element of the law of attraction and assumption because we're dealing with nanoparticles, we're dealing with these quarks and these other teeny tiny little things that create reality. I love using human design as a tool because it really touches on the neutrinos that we receive from the sun, which give us the reality as we perceive it here on Earth. It also, what quantum means to me is it like transcends these compartmentalized aspects. Like a lot of people come to me, like I had to put a label on something. So I do help new paradigm medical professionals grow their businesses and scale their businesses using techniques like quantum manifestation, human design, so they can help more people make a larger impact. And we don't ever always just focus on the business. We're talking about their marriage or relationships or their inner relationship to themselves and their relationship with money energy and their relationship to their children and this and that. So it's like quantum manifestation to me really means, how are you waking up, showing up, and manifesting your reality 24/7? Because we are manifesting whether we think we are or not.
Well, I think about just in science, like I just am a really optimistic person. Like I'm just sort of wired that way. I'll always be looking, like if my kids call, like they're having a, a situation like with a friend or something, I'm always looking at like a full 360 because I just want to understand like all the angles and everything. But I tend to be pretty optimistic. And I just think, well, like energy just attracts like energy. And so if I'm throwing off like a lot of positive energy, that's going to attract more positive energy. That's going to hook up with other people's positive energy. And so I don't know, like, so I feel like my view of the world, like I view the world, even though I said like I get scared about war, but I really do view the world like as a safe and good place. Like the people I meet are safe and good people, for the most part. And so it's this idea of just, I remember reading something about having such a hard time understanding how can all things come from like a single atom. And then when I read like stuff about quantum physics and things like that, I'm like, I totally understand it because it's infinite possibility, right? So if I didn't understand, if this like coffee cup, if I had no idea what a coffee cup was or what it did, I might not even see it because it's not real to me and it has no meaning to me. I always think about, I read the book, The Course in Miracles. And I remember like one of the first things is you look around a room and you're like, this cup has all the meaning I give it. And I'd be like, what am I even doing? What does this even mean? And then I would, now I understand what it means. It's like things only have meaning in as much as I give them meaning.
Yeah.
It's like one of those like brain twisters a little bit too. Okay, so I want to go back to our Alchemize. So we only got to A and we only got through Al. So what does C stand for? A stands for acknowledge. L is loving yourself.
I'm not going to give away the entire process because I have a lot of paying clients who paid good money too.
Yes. Okay, just give us a C. You are such a tease. Okay, give us just a C and then
C
we'll
is
stop
really
there.
important because that's where you choose. That's your choice point. Yeah.
Oh.
That is your choice point. You've acknowledged.
Right.
And then you've brought the frequency of love, which vibrates at a much higher frequency than fear. And it's actually we see it as the counter frequency of fear. And when I was studying the Bible, well, quote unquote, religiously, I do have a bachelor's of science and biblical studies, but I think it's interesting that this is coming through where there's somewhere where it's like the opposite of love is fear. The opposite of fear is love. And then it says God is love.
Right.
So you're bringing whatever that means to you, you're bringing that to the table in this process of alchemy.
Right.
And then you have the conscious awareness of the choice point. So you get to choose because as you've acknowledged the fear and not shamed yourself for feeling that way, but acknowledge that's coming from a really beautiful place. And you can love yourself for feeling scared and feeling whatever. This applies to imposter syndrome or whatever the thing is that's coming up. Then you get to choose. So what frequency do you want to choose? For me personally, this year, I decided I would choose the frequency of joy. And I did. And this has been the happiest year of my life.
That's amazing.
It's conscious. It's like you really do have the power to do that.
I love that you're talking about like acknowledging the emotion, because when I was having issues with my brain and I thought there's a deadly diagnosis hanging out there, one of the societal narratives, like there were a couple of them. One was like, I had to be so heroic. The other one was like, I couldn't have any negative. If I had a negative emotion, I had to like turn it around into a positive emotion because otherwise I was going to manifest that negative outcome right into my life. And the emotion that I felt more than anything was sadness, like just overwhelming sadness. So I was in my garden. So I was already like on my knees and I just started crying and I started to have about dying before my kids like get married or something, and I was so sad about like just missing my kids, like not being able to see or seeing them like whatever from heaven, blah, 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 not the same. And so I just remember thinking like, oh God, you got to like turn this around. And I was like, no, this is such a pure emotion. Like, you know, when you just like, just tears, like just, it was so pure and so genuine. And so then I just thought, no, like, what am I feeling? And I'm like, I'm feeling sad. And then I was like, so tender with myself. I'm like, sweetheart, what are you feeling? What are you sad about? And I was like, well, I'm sad. Like, I'm going to really miss my kids if I die in 2 years, you know? And then I would say, like, then I would validate it because that is a legitimately sad thing to be like an event that would be very sad. And then I was just like, and then I would say, do we have any facts to support this? And 100% of the time with my health, I didn't at that time. And so I was like, well, that's just speculation and that's just a story. And what was so interesting is I could be like full tilt, like very, very, very emotional. And then there would be a point where I could feel myself like calming, like it was almost like I was self-soothing, like a baby sort of sucking her thumb. And I thought, and then I was like, and I remember thinking like, I felt the whole of the emotion. And I just remember like, I was literally like on my knees in my garden. And I was like, this is so healthy is what I thought. And I'm like, I'm going to be doing this all the time because I wasn't trying to push anything away. And in a situation like that, when you have trauma, when you have a huge curveball, your mind, your mind is going to go to places, you're going to get ahead of yourself. So and I really wanted to be as present as I possibly could. And I feel like I had a really miraculous sort of healing story. My rebuilding of my body has been really amazing. And I feel a lot of it is because of what I did, like in those moments where someone could perceive it as being like a crisis moment or a crisis in faith. And I just was like, no. And so was I accidentally alchemizing and I didn't even know I was doing it? Accidental alchemy.
You were, because the point is, we don't want to bypass anything. That's actually avoidance. And that is where you start manifesting lower stuff into your life and difficulty into your life. You're going to encounter those moments. And this is where we can bring in howling at the moon if we wanted to. But
yeah. Oh, I would love to bring this into the conversation.
The point is, I guess the concept is, when those times come up, how quickly can we move through with integrity? With integrity. And when I talk about integrity, because I talk about it from like an architectural standpoint, when you look at a skyscraper, an architect will look at that and know that the foundation has this deep integrity. The integrity of the structure is intact, right? So when I say how fast can you move through with integrity, that looks like exactly what you were doing in the garden. For me recently, I had one of these experiences that I was sharing with you on camera before we started recording. Part of my journey, part of my experience this lifetime is that I do carry in my body, and I'm releasing more and more every day. But there's a lot of trauma that has occurred. A lot. And my brain, I have complex PTSD. And so my brain works in a very particular kind of way. And chemicals sometimes work the way that they're supposed to, and sometimes they don't. And I was having one of these days the other day, and astrologically, this was lining up too. There was a lot of stuff getting triggered in my chart, including my chironic wound. So it's just one of those days where I was showing up, like when I wake up in the morning, my first thoughts are like, what kind of miracle am I going to witness today? What am I receiving today? Like, what is the abundance that my family, my clients, my friends, like, that's how I wake up, right? So I don't have to question anymore if I'm bringing good energy to the table. For a lot of my life, I wasn't. And that's okay. That was my experience. But I don't question that anymore. So when stuff starts showing up in my field, where it's like I'm getting blocked, like it was just one of those crazy days. Every single thing I tried to do was blocked. We even tried to have this conversation on Friday. And that was blocked.
Yes. And we couldn't. Yeah. For some reason, it just
wouldn't work.
For some reason.
So 48 hours of that later. And I was just like, I give up. And at this point, I know that like I'm quote unquote not doing anything, because I talk a lot about radical responsibility,
Right.
but I don't want that to be misconstrued as people saying, well, I'm doing something wrong, or that's just not the case. Okay. You look at your behaviors, you look at your actions, you take responsibility for them, and you own your universe. But after that's done, it's like sometimes we just have to fucking surrender and give up. So part of what I do for myself, because I realize that I don't operate as a quote unquote normal person, whatever the hell that even means.
Nobody is normal. Not one person.
So I have a best friend who also has complex PTSD. And we don't even talk about our stories, because why? But we know there's just a deep knowing we get each other. So if she's waking up on a really off day, I've got her back, and vice versa. So she was checking in with me. She's like, hey, sister, how you doing? I'm like, it's a CPTSD day. She's like, all right, I got you. And then we get to the end of the day. She's like, you know what? This full moon is calling to me. Typically, the full moon calls to me, but I wasn't having that connection that I was just so deep in my own shit. And then I've got the extra burden of, okay, Allison, you're a leader, you're a quantum manifestation teacher, you're a this, all these people are relying on you. What if you fail? You're going to fail publicly, blah, 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 blah. She's like, how about we drive up in the canyon? We live at the foot of the Rocky Mountains outside of Estes Park. She's like, let's drive up in the canyon and go night climbing. I'm like, whoa.
And it was like I also live in Colorado, and it was an unbelievable full moon. Absolutely. You didn't even need, it was like one of those full moons, so dark, and the moon was so bright. Like,
yeah, we didn't even need a headlamp or anything.
The middle of the night. Yeah.
So I've got 3 boys. I'm a single mom. They're all at home. I'm like, fuck it. Let's go. I was like, let's go air our grievances with God, the universe. And I'm like, all right. She's like, I just want to climb to the top, have a beer, howl at the moon. I'm texting her. I'm like, I can't do beer. Like, I've got migraines with the thing. If you have something else, bring it along. So I go downstairs, I tell the boys, and they've at this point, they've seen me break down and cry 3 times throughout the day. Pressure of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
how old are
they're 11, 14, and 17. And they are just...
Okay. Yeah. I think that's good that I remember hide things from being upset from my kids. And I'm just like, sometimes it's really helpful to let them see you.
Exactly. I used to
trying to figure things out.
Especially as a single parent, like you feel like you got to have it all together sometimes. And it's, guys, I don't have it together today. Not even a little bit. And so I said, I'm going to go have some girl time with my friend, and we're going to crawl up the canyon on the rocks and boulders and climb, and we're going to howl at the moon. And they're like, okay, Mom, have fun doing your witchy stuff. I love you so much. You really need this. You're going to feel so much better.
Oh, I love them. Yeah. They get their mom.
So, we did, my sister and I, we went up there. We share the things that you don't share with anybody else. And I literally looked up at that moon after we had been moon bathing for a while. And I was like, dear God, raising my hand in reverence and also irreverence and saying, what the actual fuck?
Right.
Because, and that's what a full moon will do too, right? Like, it will bring it to this popping, bursting point. And if you fight that, especially as a feminine, especially as a womb holder, if you fight that energy or wrestle with that energy, you're asking for some bigger problems. So it was very cathartic. Right. I don't do that every single month, but I have been known to participate even with clients. I had a client a couple months ago
Right.
going through a big squeeze as she was pivoting in her business, she and her business partner. And she's, I don't get it. This is stuck. This is that. This is this. And I was getting information from her quantum field and just tapping in telepathically. And I was like, oh God, well, this is not the prescription that I was envisioning, but you need a womb ceremony and we need to do it with water. And it's the full moon tonight. So meet me over here at 9 p.m. and we'll get started. And
Amazing.
then the next day she was texting me like, she's like, Allison, the clients are pouring in. This is happening. It's like, so we live in this holographic existence. And a lot of times what we see with our eyes is only just scratching the surface of what's really going on.
Right. Well, they say we take in over 1 billion bytes of information, but that we only process like a few thousand. And so I just think about like how you get so into habit. Like when I leave my neighborhood, like so many times I mean to go left, which is not my normal way out. And I go, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, just habit. And that works with emotions. It works with everything. And I think that sometimes we think, well, that's just how it is. And the capacity for people to change. Like I've had really beautiful healing experiences. Like my real dad was a really bad alcoholic when we were younger, and then was like a dry drunk for a long time. So I didn't have a relationship with him for a long time. And then we ended up having a great relationship. But I was like one of those things, like I was like, if I never talked to you again, had he not made that first move, I would have not been the person to make the move with him. And so I just remember thinking, and he was like in his 60s when he did that. And I was just like, okay, if somebody can change, like if he can change, like he's always one like, God, if that can change, like it's really inspiring too. And I know that a big part of your process is like this body embodiment, movement, breath work. So how does that all work with? Why is that so effective and such an important part of this? You called it you don't call it alternative healing. What did you call your practice? You refer to people like the people you want to work with, like people who want to heal, like you teach practitioners how to incorporate. You called them
new paradigm
really interesting
medical
name
practitioner.
for them. Yeah, new paradigm. Yeah, I love that. So why and how does that all work together, and what does moving and breathing
excellent question.
You?
So much of my own journey and even the certifications that I hold, my journey with health and everything, I found that I had to truly tackle it from every single angle in a holistic way and not leave out any piece of the puzzle, so to speak, if I wanted true actual healing. And as I started working more and more with energy and manifestation, and this is something that I don't see a whole lot of manifestation teachers really talking about, we create physically. I mean, think about how a child is born. We don't just think this thought of, oh, I want to have a child. There's actions that go into that. There's a whole process, and it's very physical. And then this soul is here in this body. That's what we are. And so if we have these big visions and these big dreams, and the clients I'm privileged to work with are just huge visionaries and they've got big shit to do, you have to bring that through the body. So, because sometimes it's overwhelming, it's too much for the inner self to deal with. It's too much for the mind. You can short circuit your brain. You can do all kinds of these things. You got to move with it. It actually, like taking a walk is one of the best metabolizers ever. We could take that literally and say, if you want to burn fat, like low, steady cardio is really one of the most effective ways to do that, metabolize, but also the energy. needs to be metabolized. So if I've got this huge offer that's coming through and these big things that I'm working on, I could sit in front of my computer all day and not be half as effective as if I go out for a 45-minute walk in fresh air and then I'll come back and execute. Right? Because actions are necessary in order to effectively manifest. So yes, we choose.
Oh, that is so interesting. Is it because energy is flow, right? So if you're just like meditating and you're journaling, but you're not moving, it could get stuck.
It does.
Maybe.
I've done this to myself so many times.
That is so interesting. Well, like when I thought I might have ALS this summer, like the first day, like I don't know why I decided to do this, but I was like, I'm going to get really drunk. And so I made an intention, and I am not that kind of drinker. So I made this intention to get really drunk, which was just a horrible pursuit. And then the outcome was just like, I was like, God, I was like so grateful to know that alcohol was not my coping. And I was like, what is my coping? And it is taking a walk, 100%. Standing, even in just standing barefoot. We're so lucky we live in Colorado because even in the winter, it's not terribly cold. So you can like really stand outside in the sun, barefoot on the grass in the winter too, like those kinds of things too. That's so interesting. So it really is this mind and body, just like they've been saying all along, the mind and body connection. Yeah. Right.
I'd like to, if it's okay, I really see something about that experience. I think it's really interesting that you brought up that you intended to get really drunk. You had to experience that to heal something with the father experience. Yeah.
Really?
So if you think of your kitchen cabinet, some of the cabinets you have to push in the door to get it to open. You had to go into that like drunken stupor situation, even though that was totally outside of your norm, to open up some other aspect. Now, I don't know the whole story. I don't know what he came in, but yeah.
That is, oh my gosh, I love that. Well, now I'm going to be thinking about that. So I'll let you know like when I make that connection too, because I do really feel like my dad has passed away, but I do really feel like I do have my support team, and there are times where he really does come through in like such a powerful way. I have a brother who also comes through like in my journaling as well. And he's always like, he died of brain cancer, and he was always like, and he was not like a spiritual guy. And I remember him telling me once, he was like, you know, we made this agreement. And I was like, what agreement? He's like, that I would be the one to get sick and die. And I'm just like, seriously? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, way to take one for the team. And so then when I thought I might have a deadly diagnosis, I was like, I thought what was our deal? It turns out our deal was still the deal because I'm fine pretty much. And so, but I do think that's interesting is like that kind of knowing that he had that. And then he just told, and I was like, wow, that's just really incredible. And so he, as a result, he was like, I know that this is like my noble mission. He was not afraid.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah. That is, oh my gosh. So you also use human design, which is something too that I think people throw around and we think know what it means, but I'm also like maybe 90% proficient. Probably, well, you tell me what human design is and then I'll give myself a grade.
One word, an experiment. I mean, that's so underwhelming and not sexy, but really the reason I love human design is that it gives us our logical brain a framework that it can attach to.
Oh.
Right? It gives us a common language. We could say, oh, that's because I have gate 10 defined. And oh, that's because I'm a sacral authority and blah, blah, blah. It's like we need and want some kind of validation for us being the way that we are. And it's very accurate. And when we really line up with it and we honor our sacred energy and how it likes to flow, and we listen and we move from that standpoint, then we do attract the most incredible results and experimentation process. And when we fight against that, it's all an experiment. It just don't.
So, okay. So also asking for a friend. I'm the friend. But what's really interesting is when I get like a reading, or I just had an aura reading last week, and it was really amazing. But I will overwhelmingly get, like, people will get visions where I have like my sacral chakra, right? Like the grounding one, right? Red comes, I think that's red.
The
red
root
one, right?
is correlates with red and security, and the sacral correlates with orange and creativity.
Okay, yeah. So it's like the root chakra is the one that always gets called out constantly. And then I just think about just somebody who grew up in my head, like from a really young age. And then I have ADHD. And so I just feel like there's so much happening here when all my like spiritual guys, no, you gotta you gotta get here. And so is that accurate to feel like there's my elevator is stuck up here in my brain, and really I need to be able to have a good way for it to go up and down, like between and visit all eight. Yeah,
that's very common for so many of us, especially in the West. We're just so analytical, and we're so in our heads and not as much in our bodies. Now, there are some, like I'm thinking my mom's human design chart, she has only 2 centers defined, and they're both up here. She's a mental authority projector. And so everything from her throat chakra down is wide open and not defined. So she's naturally going to be in her head more. However, there's a healthy way to go about doing so if you are living in alignment with your energetic blueprint in your design.
Is there a correlation between like complexity of design? Is your mom like a new soul? Is she like, the older the soul is more of that sort of filled in?
That's a beautiful question.
Not really.
I do resonate with that being true. And projectors are the most recent energy type on the planet, according to the human design system. I think they came in 1781 is what Ra Uru was saying. So
wait, I want to make sure I understand this. 1781, human design sounds so modern, but 17, and that's like the last ones. When did it start, human design?
I don't know. I don't know that question's ever been asked or answered.
God, how isn't that just so interesting that even back then, like I love the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogi Nanda. And I think about when he came to America. So he felt compelled to come to the West. And he came here in the 1920s, this little brown Indian man with long hair and these gowns. And he came to Colorado actually, and 3,000 people came to go see him in like the 1920s, which I don't know what. I just think that's just absolutely amazing. So I had a friend who went to Egypt, and I said, what was the best part of Egypt? She said, even back then they were asking the same questions, like why are we here? What's the meaning of life? Like, how do we figure it out? So I just feel like we just have always been curious about that. And now because I think we live such an easy life, we get to really think about it too, because we don't have to worry about, if we want biscuits, we can just go to the grocery store and get some. We don't have to grind our own flour or milk a cow or grow chickens. You know what I mean? Like, we just have this time to also be thinking about this kind of stuff.
I want to point out really quick, because I think I misunderstood your question a little bit. I thought I was interpreting it differently, but the system human design came about in 1987. So there is a whole backstory on where it came from, how it came through. It's very fascinating. And it correlates actually to when I was also 3 years old and started having visions. But at that point, there was a supernova event closer to Earth than we've documented in history. And we had an influx of neutrinos that was documented all over the world from scientific labs. The quantum, I can't remember the term.
What is a neutrino?
A neutrino is a subatomic particle.
What is a neutrino?
Yeah, it's a subatomic particle that is actually so small that scientists thought for a long time it was like a photon, like just light, and that it didn't have any mass whatsoever. And we know that photons like carry light, it carries information. But a neutrino, and this was actually passed to the founder of human design through what he called the voice, which downloaded the human design system to him over 8 days. He said that neutrinos,
I love those divine downloads.
yeah,
That's
he
incredible.
actually documented that neutrinos do have mass. And I can't remember if it was 12 years or 20, several years later, quantum physicists were able to isolate and prove that neutrinos do have mass. So they're basically one of the smallest particles that we know about. It creates like this pen. We think of like protons and electrons. Neutrinos are more crucial to our physical reality existence than anything else that we understand on an atomic level.
Why is that?
I don't know. That's where my education, as a layman, that's why I'm like, oh, I wish I had so many more decades to live this lifetime, because I would go get my PhD in physics and all the things.
Well, I was thinking like when you were giving that analogy of you have something filled with like rocks and then you put sand or fine sand in it and it will go and fill in all the gaps. So maybe that's what's happening here. This pen too. That is amazing. What is, gosh, like what is like one of your most profound experiences with this kind of work, either in your own life or working with one of your clients, where you really felt like, wow, this is connection. This is quantum. This is it in a nutshell.
Two really come to mind. Well, there's so many, because I've seen so much on a supernatural level too. That's almost commonplace. That's almost commonplace. But number one, this story has gotten me so much flack online. I was actually just like verbally attacked by somebody in the DMs a few days ago for being greedy and power hungry and all this, which it's every experience carries a lesson in there. So I was grateful for it, as uncomfortable as it was. But it's stories like what I'm about to share with you that trigger some things in certain people. So I'm just sharing that. But I wanted to blow my own mind with my own manifestation protocol. So back in June, I decided to see if I could manifest a private jet. Because in my mind, that would be the coolest thing that I could, and the biggest thing. I was like, I can manifest free cups of coffee. I can manifest things I can touch. I can manifest money, blah, blah. I want a freaking jet. And it was so outlandish and so crazy and ridiculous that I was like, if this happens, I will never struggle with self-confidence ever again. And by the way, that's not true. Because in my human design, I have the open ego center and all kinds. I can struggle with self-confidence all day, every day. But it took me 12 days, Heather. Just 12 days. And I woke up.
12. How did you, well, what happened? What was that? The 12 days of private jetting?
Yeah. Well, so from the point in which I wrote down I documented it. So I actually have proof of the day that I wrote this down, and I was like, I'm going to do this. From that point until I woke up to the morning to a text with a picture of the jet and the crew where it says your private jet awaits. That was a 12-day period.
Where did you go? Where did you go?
I haven't
You're
even.
like, Oklahoma
it's a whole different story. I was going to go to Africa, and then I actually decided not to because I was picking up on some frequencies that did not align with me. And it looked like I would have had to transgress my own integrity to participate with the people that I was going to go see. So I actually thanked the person offering the jet and said, this opportunity has fallen through. I appreciate you so much. But it was the very next day that I met a stranger at a networking event who basically pounded down my door to talk with me, metaphorically speaking. And we ended up having a 5-hour coffee a week later. And the conversation just went everywhere. And I started kind of talking about this opportunity. Amazing. And he's, do you need a private jet?
Oh my God. Were you just like laugh? Just like when that happens, are you just like, oh my God?
The hysterical part too is that I did give him that look and he was like, whoa, something just happened. But he also wanted to connect me with this person who lives in Scotland. I was like, cool, amazing. I would love to. And then the person who lives in Scotland that he wanted to connect me with walked through the door behind me in 3D. So I manifested a private jet and a person on the same day. So that's one of my biggest.
Wait, I got to talk about like, this person from Scotland. So he's meet this person and then
walked
this person
in the door.
Was where?
At the cafe where we were at. He had no idea she was in town. No, I mean, his jaw. So my jaw had already dropped when he's, do you want a private jet? Then his jaw, he was like, what is happening? And I said, I'm happening.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm getting like emotional because I just cannot even believe all of that can happen like in such a short period of time. So why doesn't this happen? Why can't anyone? Well, I know you're going to say anyone can do this, but why aren't people doing it now? What's getting in the way of people doing it right now? Left to their own devices.
I will show you exactly why. I remember that coffee cup that you were talking about. And you were like, if I didn't know what this was, I wouldn't even see it. It's because people don't believe and they don't remember how powerful they actually are. And I from a marketing perspective, this has been hell for my business because I started talking about these things and they did not believe. The audience couldn't even believe it. Some people did. And as I gave more and more detail, well, this happened and then this, and then it would unlock something of, oh my God, this manifestation stuff really is real. But if they've never seen a coffee cup before, they're just going to not believe that it's possible. So
well, it reminds me of that quote from Marianne Williamson. We're not afraid of like our darkness. We're afraid of our light. Of what we are. It's easy. Like, I just think about one of the reasons I don't like to do like a large scale, like big course is because like more than half the people like won't even ever even log into the portal they won't even do it, left to their own devices. And I find that I could make a lot of money selling those kinds of things to people, but I find that hugely unsatisfying. Yeah. So I like to work with like small, because I really want people to be able to like get the concepts, have the support they need to see, like, oh, okay, this is how it can work. It sounds like you very much work with people in that
and I do something really, I don't know, unconventional, but that's how I
oh, that's it. Yeah. Oh,
I know. I do a 1 year long mentorship. It's a year long because the physical body and the physical reality has to match up. So that whole private experience of manifesting in 12 days, I had been leading up to that moment for 2 years, tracking manifestations for every single month for 2 years. and looking at it from a scientific standpoint and exercising vigorously with intent. I've been taking my own medicine, not just the alchemization part of a lifetime, but really actively working on it for 2 years. So I can say it happened in 12 days because it did. But also.
Right. Well, it's been like your whole life. Right. Yeah.
So
from the point you declared it was 12 days, but there was a lot in motion beforehand. I really love what you said too about this idea of really setting this intention too. I want to go back to this idea of what you were talking about with this idea of mind and body, because one of the things I realized, like when my brain was actively broken and it was wasting my muscles, that because you said I would like exercise with so much intention. And so like when I would try to exercise, I realize now that I'm healed, that my body wanted to do one thing, but my brain was like, Heather, what are you doing? We are trying to waste those muscles. And so that conflict between my brain and my body, I didn't know it was happening when it was happening. When you start to come back, you're just like, oh my gosh, it's almost like looking back and just saying, wow, I realize a lot of things now that I have context for this. So that movement, body, breath work, and it's not something you can do like in 3 sessions, right? Like it's going to take time.
That's why I work with my clients for a year at a time, because I want them just like a good doctor will tell you, I don't ever want to see you again. Now I love it. And I get from a sales perspective and a marketing perspective, what's the easiest revenue that you have? Recurring clients. Okay, cool, perfect. And that is because once a relationship is forged and you like become someone's person, like that's the easiest and quickest pathway to results.
Yes.
And I love it if and when someone outgrows the mentorship and they're like, I've got it. I'm like, yes, my job, go forth and prosper.
That's how I feel too. It's like, I want people to learn branding and marketing, like the little baby bird, where I'll chew up the worms, I'll feed it to them. But then I really do ultimately want them to fly. And I also have my program is a minimum of 6 months because I want people set up in the first 90 days and then help them launch something like a high ticket offer in the next 90 days. And then I also have a back end. So if anyone works with me, act surprised when I offer you the back end, but to continue to work with me, because one of the things I find is that just in marketing, you must get this all the time too. Like when my students or my clients will do just how marketing is supposed to be done, they'll see results. Then the second they're on their own, they'll stop. Even when you have the keys, they'll stop doing it.
It's so because it's an energy thing. It's an energy game. I tell people like 80% of growing and scaling a business is your energy. 20% of it is the sales and marketing and delivery. And without any of that, it's not going to work. Like you do have to have all the ingredients.
I 100% agree with you. Like when someone brings an offer out into the market, like I see this a lot, and I see it within my online communities too, where someone will have something they really believe in. They offer it over and over again. It's never successful. So when they offer it, they're just like, oh, this will never work. And it doesn't, and I'm like, oh, energetically, it's because you're not even, you're prepared. Like it's so interesting how that does happen. Like just all those energetic blocks that put things in the way. Like I just know when people they spread themselves so thin, they're doing all this marketing and it's never attached to a goal, and they get so burnt out. Like that's also in that like realm of doing stuff, with that and then you burn out because of it. And sometimes I feel like the ego can be so reasonable sometimes, which is, oh, you got to be doing these 90 things. You're just like, okay, that sounds reasonable. Like starting a business should be hard. When really, I'm always like, no, it's usually when I start working with people, we peel back their marketing efforts anywhere from like 20 to 50%, just because that's the stuff they're doing that just doesn't even drive the needle too. So I love that long-term approach. Okay. So how can people work with you? Like what, how, where do they go? Do you have any cool, like good starting, where's a good starting point to work with you?
Probably one of the easiest is, and this is great for the beginning of the year, is called the Unleash Your Inner Magician. It's just a 4-week manifestation challenge.
I love that.
And it really gives you the tools to start working with your own human design chart on your own and become your own expert, so that you're not constantly needing to hire other experts and whatever. You become your own expert on you. It comes with journal prompts 5 days a week to get clear on some manifestations. That's on the website, AllisonAl.com. And
can you spell that out for me, please, real fast? And we'll put this in the show notes.
A-L-L-I-S-O-N, Alchemia. So ALKHEMIA.com. And the Unleash is a great place to start. Now, there's another offering that I am so excited about. And this is coincidental. It's not coincidental. I don't believe in coincidence, but I didn't mention it when you mentioned something that you're about to do. I'm hosting my first international retreat in Costa Rica on Dominical, or close to Dominical. It's in the Punta Arenas region on the Pacific side. Costa Rica is my soul's home. Same. I'm like actively working on creating my heaven on earth, and it involves Costa Rica. This is where this retreat on May 30th to June 4th. And this is again on the website. There's a whole retreat page on the website. This is where people who are called to help people come and ignite. Resetting. I really wanted to do an in-person offering for all of those reasons we were talking about. The cellular matrix needs to come on board with these up levels. And
for some reason, like you say these certain things, and I get like you could tell, like I get tears in my eyes, and I don't even know why, because I'm like, I'm not having an emotion. I'm having like,
it's a confirmation,
like the cellular matrix. Yeah. Like just something like, I'm just like, what's that? I just feel like we're so magical. Yeah. So I just really love this. Oh my gosh. And Costa Rica, because I'm going to go leave like in 3 days, we're heading there, is like the most magical place. I don't know what it is about it.
I've traveled the entire world.
We go to Nosara. Yes, we're going to Nosara.
Beautiful. I've traveled to 5 continents and seen much of the world. I have been to Egypt. I mean, I've been to all these magical places. There is something very special about Costa Rica, especially when you're talking about bringing in your next chapter. Like, it's very magical. So
I cannot wait to go, because I feel like, not like I have this, well, I guess it could be like, it doesn't feel like a new lease on life. It feels like I have this blank canvas, because I really had to shut down my business this year. And as a result, like also my finances obviously correlated with that too. So I feel like I have this like really fun, fresh start in front of me. So I'm really I just cannot wait I call it seriously the healing waters of Nosara. I'm like, please just get me into that ocean.
Totally.
There is something. Allison, I am so glad you live in Colorado, so we can be friends forever, because this has been absolutely amazing. I love everything that you're doing and all the people that you're helping. I'm positive I'm going to be one of your clients too. Like, I am so interested in what you're doing. And I love this idea of energy, alchemy, just movement, embodiment, and just, you said something that just literally gave me goosebumps, like on my cheeks. Like, we forget how powerful we are. Just the remembering of that, I think, is so powerful. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And thank you so much for having me on. This has been a pure joy. And it's amazing. I'm really honored to meet you.
Yeah, I know. I know. First of many conversations, I have a feeling. So thank you so much.